study very hard, because yoga is life. All you have to do is start using that developing consciousness as a result of your yoga practice, because inevitably every yoga practitioner develops a wider consciousness. Just start applying that in your daily life. You automatically start doing things consciously. And that is your teacher. That is where you learn. That is where everything starts making sense. This whiteboard and its tripod is almost as old as I am. It's so crooked. I don't mean to say that I'm crooked, although maybe I am a little bit. It's falling apart. I really need a new one. You recognize this? That's the Yin Yang model. Actually, Yin Yang model has nothing to do with yoga because it's Chinese. But everybody knows the Yin Yang model. And it reflects a principle that is same as in yoga. In Chinese, you call it Yin and Yang. It's out of energy. That's because it didn't practice yoga diligently. I should have another one somewhere. Sorry for... Okay. Let's use green then. Yin. No, this is Yang. The dark half is Yang. The light half is Yin. What is this about? It's a nice symbol. People in spiritual circles, they have a tattoo of Yin and Yang, or earrings with Yin Yang, or a necklace with the Yin Yang symbol. But what does it mean? It's like other things from ancient people, ancient cultures. It's symbolism. And it looks nice and it looks mysterious and intriguing, but it's very interesting if you know what it really means. Because this is the symbol of the human being. This is a model of the human being in symbolically expressed. Energy is most effective when it is in harmony. There are two opposing polarities, plus and minus. So in Yin and Yang they call it, Yin is the light part, that is plus. The dark part is minus. They also say it's masculine, feminine, dark and light. But what does it really mean? If you pay attention, you see that the white half has a black eye. The black half has a white eye. That's why we think, oh, this looks really nice. Nice decoration. But this is not a decoration. They didn't put that eye there to make it look nice. that black eye in the white half has a meaning, as has the white eye in the black half. It means that as a human being, you exist out of two halves, regardless of what you are, whether you are a man or a woman. You are both masculine and feminine. The masculine part has feminine characteristics. Like I, as a man, have feminine characteristics. Many men don't like that. They oppress instinctively their feminine characteristics because they don't want to look weak. I have no problem with that. I am balanced. Or you should be the judge of that, of course. But that is what this means. The feminine part has a masculine characteristic. As a woman, you have masculine characteristics. The story behind it is even more beautiful. If there is no harmony between man and woman in a relationship, the relationship will fail. That is also what this model expresses. If I'm very masculine, a tough guy, the ideal relationship would be with a woman who is very feminine, very girlish. That leads to balance. If I, as a man, am very feminine, the kind of woman that attracts me and feels attracted to me is a woman that is rather masculine. And if I'm rather balanced, then what attracts me and feels attracted to me is also rather balanced. It's a natural law, it's a universal law. If a relationship fails, it's often because there is an imbalance. Yin and Yang. Energy is everything. Energy is responsible for growth and development, but it's only effective when it is rather harmonious. And that is what you do with yoga practice. Why are we talking about Yin and Yang? Because when you practice yoga, it is important that you do it in such a way that it leads to this balance. And that is why I'm a traditional yogi. That is why I stick to the traditional approach. Because I know what it does to me and you. And I know that the modern approach doesn't do that. Doesn't have all the wonderful implications, all the wonderful developments that result from yoga done properly. And I will explain why. Because yin and yang always fluctuate, day and night. It is the rhythm of nature. When the sun comes up in the morning, yang energy starts to manifest. So the birds wake up and fly from their nest looking for food. The flowers open up when it is flower season. And also you wake up, you open your eyes, whether you like it or not, you wake up. At the end of the day, the birds go back to their nest. The flowers close again, under the influence of the other polarity of energy. And you start to yawn and you prepare for bed, you take a shower, maybe read a book or watch a little bit TV, and you go to bed and you fall asleep. So we have a situation that we are subject to this rise and fall of energy. But as yogis, the ideal situation is that that energy doesn't fluctuate too much. Because as a human being, your intellect, your consciousness develops best when there is relative harmony between the yin and yang energy. In Sanskrit, that is called Shiva and Shakti. Shiva is the masculine. No, Shiva is the feminine energy. It's symbolically represented by a male god, but it represents feminine energy. Shakti is the goddess of dance, but it represents masculine energy. Harmony is called sattva. There are few yoga teachers who know this. And yet, if you open a yoga book, a real one, a serious one, it's all that yoga is about. Everything you do in yoga, your asana practice, physical exercise, your energy control, your meditation, and more importantly, how you apply it in your daily life situations, it's all about maintaining sattva. And if you lose it, try to restore it. Sattva is harmony. Then you think, boring. No. Sattva is very tangible. It's a sense of well-being. When there is too much Shiva energy, you become very sluggish, lazy, and it leads to depression, negative thought. The other side is Shakti energy. Shakti energy is energy that expands. So generally we prefer the condition that comes with Shakti. It's what happens when we are actively focusing on something. It leads people to become a workaholic. Because as long as you are engaged, physically or mentally, there is a sense of euphoria that is caused by Shakti energy. So you just keep working. Because the moment that you stop working, your body asks for restoration of the harmony, so it goes back into a Shiva condition, which you don't like. You don't like to feel lazy and languid and sluggish. We usually solve this with a cup of coffee and focusing harder even on our work. But you know, there is an end to what you can do. There comes a moment that you push yourself to the point of exhaustion. But if you do that, if you come to the point of exhaustion, the fall into a Shiva condition is deep. So you exacerbate those ups and downs between Shiva and Shakti. It's very tempting. That is why we become addicted, not only to work, but other addictions are basically following the same principle. So you can regulate this. On Sunday, no, after a long week of work where you have generated a lot of Shakti, being busy with family or work or both, you're looking forward to the weekend, right? Monday you're a little bit grumpy. Tuesday you start the motor engine that warms up and you get into a rhythm. By Thursday you think, oh, tomorrow is Friday. And suddenly your mood is brightening. And you go whistling through your day on Friday, because you know on Saturday, finally, you can relax, take a deep breath. Instead, Friday night, you go out for a drink and dinner. And Saturday, well, Saturday you have to do the things that you couldn't do in the weekdays. So you need to clean the house a little bit, you need to go to the supermarket and stock up on food stuffs and things. Saturday evening again, you go out with your friends. Sunday you wake up 2 hours later than usual and you turn around once more and becomes lazy. Now the first couple of hours of laziness you enjoy because you are actually restoring your condition in a Shiva dominated condition. But there comes a moment that your Shiva condition starts to bother you. You start to become a little bit dark, a little bit depressed. You become grumpy, you become depressed. That is usually when you decide to come here, for example, or you go to the park and you make a walk. Because as soon as you move, you start generating Shakti energy again, and you start feeling good again. But only this weekend was not enough for your body to fully restore. You started going down, you control it with a firm walk in the park or the neighborhood, but Sunday night you go to bed still needing more Shiva to restore the balance, the harmony. And that is, you wake up on Monday morning, and that is where the word Monday morning blues comes from, or Monday morning disease. The Monday morning blues is nothing else than that darkness and depression that is still there because you have not fully recovered yet. But you start moving because the clock, your alarm clock, goes off, kicks you out of bed, and forces you to start becoming active. So Monday is usually a little bit difficult start, but throughout the day, energy starts to move again a little bit, and you little by little switch into a Shakti mode. By Tuesday, you feel pretty good again. On Wednesday, Thursday, you already start looking forward to the next weekend, longing for the next weekend. If you understand how this works, you can start, at least to some point, regulating it. If you understand how this works, you also understand why there is only one yoga. It is the yoga that leads to sattva. Now, most modern yogas is moving exercise. Right? They call it flow yoga. But these days, almost all yoga, you can do flying yoga too, you know? Flow yoga, Ashtanga yoga, Vinyasa yoga, Hatha yoga, Bikram yoga, name it. Why are they so popular? Because we think standing still, no movement is boring. Is it? On the surface, yes, it is. Until you experience what standing still does with you. You'll never ever think again that it is boring. I'll explain. First of all, real yoga indeed is standing still. The yoga word for exercise is what?
Asana.
Yes. And when we do asana, we move. But what does it mean? Asana does not mean move or exercise. Asana means standing still. So we stand still, we turn off the music, boring, and the teacher shuts up. 3 elements that you don't find in most yoga classes. There's constant movement to the point that your muscles are hurting and sweating, and which is good as an exercise, don't get me wrong. Exercise is always good. But yoga has so much more to offer if you do it correctly. You can do exercise after your yoga class. I like exercise too. I walk. I have 2 dogs, I have no choice. But I like riding a bicycle also, and yeah, exercise is different than yoga, but yoga is yoga and it should be yoga. No movement, no music, and during the exercise, the teacher should stop talking. Why? Because yoga is very selfish practice. I say this sounds very negative, but actually it's very good. It's a good form of selfishness. Because in the silence and the standing still, you connect deep within yourself. Soul connection, that is what it is called. That is what the real union means, that most yoga teachers mention but cannot explain. It's always funny. I give an example of how teachers conduct themselves in the class. And people are always laughing. I've seen my own instructors do that when I had my studios and sometimes I would take my the class with my student. I would just join. They put you in a warrior pose. Not 15 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, because they are so busy talking about your muscles and your ego talk, this and that. They're so busy talking that they forget that you are suffering there, staying in that terrible warrior pose, sweating and shaking, and then they walk around. They don't do it themselves for so long. They just show you, and then they leave you. And then they walk around. Connect your body with your mind and your soul. Sounds very mysterious, huh? You recognize it, huh? Many teachers do that. Have you ever asked your teacher after class, "Hey, teacher, what does it mean? How do I connect my body and my mind and my soul?" How? Can anybody explain? No, that's too complicated and impossible and mystery, dogma. No, it's very simple. It's so simple that you become a doubting Thomas. It's so simple that you can't believe it's true. We are either physically busy or we are mentally busy. Hardly ever is there a balance between the two. Either we move or we sit down and we are mentally busy. The real secret of yoga is that it forces the body and the mind to communicate. But that's only possible if you stand still. You think that is easy? It looks easy. No, it is easy. Because there is no music and nobody is distracting me with muscles and bones and hip joints and what have you. That is why you need to practice in silence. What I did was standing still. Is that purely a physical engagement? Impossible. Standing still is only possible if there is mental concentration, focus. And because you do it in silence, without movement, harmony occurs. It's that simple. Yoga is magic. That is why we are magic pond. Yoga truly is magic. You turn lead into gold. You know about the alchemist who turns lead into gold? Throughout the centuries, people have literally tried to turn lead into gold. Spent lots of money and time and frustration because nobody succeeded to turn lead into gold. Turning lead into gold is like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, which as a child I tried to reach and never got there. It's symbolism. Lead is the condition that the unconditioned human being is in. wasting all that precious energy. Gold is the condition of sattva, where the intellect opens up and the consciousness opens up, leading to wisdom, vision, deep insight. That is really turning lead into gold. That is alchemy. Yoga is alchemy. Ancient yogis were sorcerers, were healers, were alchemists. There's no mystery, no dogma. It's based on characteristics that you have, that every human being has, but is dormant. By practicing yoga and bringing sattva into your condition, in your harmony, in your energy household, those special characteristics manifest. But they are subtle. And because they are subtle, we don't see them. So we start dressing up in funny clothes. I wrap a curtain around my body and I walk around, look at me, I'm a yogi. And Western yogis, even when they have no hair on their top of their head, they grow hair on the back of their head and they make a ponytail. Wearing gold wool socks and Birkenstock. I wear Birkenstock too, but not because I'm a yogi. A real magician or a real alchemist or a real yogi for that matter doesn't stand out. Just a normal human being. You have to accept that the special abilities that you have, developing deeper consciousness, wisdom, insight, vision, that is subtle. You cannot show that to other people by dressing up and funny things and what have you. That is where the rituals of the ancient times come from. You establish your value as a sorcerer, an alchemist, a yogi, a horoscopist. How do you call people that read the stars? By intimidating rituals, by sorcery. It's all meant to establish your authority. We don't need that in this time where human beings are rational and highly intellectual. But that is where all the mystery and dogma comes from. Don't forget that ancient people were illiterate. They were not rational like you and me. They lived with nature. The unexplained phenomena of nature were very scary, so people lived in awe. And because they didn't know how to deal with that, they created gods, all kinds of gods. We're too rational for that. And yet, there are very few yoga classes where actually yoga is brought back to its essence in a very practical way. But then it really comes alive and it becomes a very powerful tool. You should have asked me, because I didn't tell you yet. Teacher Ron, how do you bring about that fusion between your body, your mind, and your soul? Because you explained about the body and the mind, but what about the soul? Look, everything is energy. Have you heard about chakras? The chakra, do they exist actually? Do chakras exist? Do you know the meaning of the word chakra? It just means wheel. It's a wheel. Nothing mysterious there. But a human being consists out of energy. Just energy? No. Because you have many different functions. So, this is your head with your brain. Then you have the spine. Then the spine is the highway of your nerve system, which is energy. Right? From the brain comes an enormous amount of traffic, signals, to the lower parts of the body. So, in and around the head is a lot of energy. If you develop the intellect, the brain sends electric pulses down the spine, and the first location where the nerves branch out is at the level of the throat. So you can see the nerve system as a thick internet cable. At the level of the throat, a small portion of that thick cable branches out and takes care of swallowing, speech, hearing, etc. So here is a concentration of energy. That is a chakra. The throat chakra in this case. It goes down at the level of the heart. Another small bundle of nerves is taking care of the function of the lungs and the heart. So you have the heart chakra, and etc. But there are physical functions connected with these chakras, but there are also emotional functions related to these chakras. And this is so interesting. It really helps you to understand how you function, and more importantly, it helps you how to control. Because, why is that important? Here's the diaphragm. The 3 chakras below the diaphragm, we call the location of the lower emotions and desire. Fear, sexuality, desire, ego, and ambition. And it is those 3 generally that bring us in conflict with ourselves and our environment. Fear leads to doubt and worry, and it paralyzes us from doing the things that are really important in life. Desire is one of the biggest troublemakers in interhuman relations. All the scandals are caused, all the ruined reputations are caused by lack of control of desire. Ego and ambition, likewise. Because ego and ambition doesn't allow you to shut up when it is important to shut up. When you're angry, when somebody triggers you. Above the diaphragm, we have the heart chakra and the throat chakra. We call that the higher emotions and desires. So there are physical functions. If you look at the lowest chakra, I told you it's fear, right? The physical function of this chakra is all the forms of excretion. That means going to the toilet. That means sweating. It means also the function of all the glands that produce hormones and other substances in the body to make the body function. So if you have an imbalance in this chakra, you have an issue with obstipation, 변비, 한국말로, 변비, obstipation. Because the energy is not available, it's disturbed. It can also be the opposite, diarrhea. You can see this at work when people are subject to extreme fear. When people experience extreme fear, there is an explosion of energy and you relieve yourself involuntarily. You recognize this? In Holland we call you shit your pants out of fear. That's why they call you a shitty pants if you're not so courageous. But also, when you experience fear, the sweat that you excrete is not normal sweat. It's fear sweat. Literally we call it fear sweat in Dutch. It smells particularly, in a particular way. Fear smells. Animals are so sensitive, they smell when you experience fear, and for an animal that means you are a potential prey. If you can control that fear, the animal will move around you and find another prey, another victim that does show fear, and the fear is basically the smell that comes from the fear is a signal for the predator to attack. So very interesting this. But let's go back to the body, the mind, and the soul. There's so much to explain, so much wonderful stuff I want to share with you. None of the workshops that I do is ever the same. There is a layout, I have to explain this and that, but it always finds a certain flow somewhere. Okay, so your physical body, I already told you, you're either active on physical level or mental level, but hardly ever at the same time. Actually, I should make 3 models. Physically active, but not mentally. There's no harmony, so there's no connection, the body and the mind. Mentally active, but not physically. Now this is what yoga does, if you do it correctly. You start with the physical part, putting yourself into a pose, which is physical activity. But now, while physically engaged, I'm not resting in a pose. Many yoga teachers tell you when you are doing asana, if you do traditional style, like they call it hatha yoga or healing yoga, they say, relax in the pose. Wrong. If you relax in the pose, you're not working with the energy anymore. I look inactive, not engaged, but I am. I'm erecting actively. I'm not slumping. I erect actively. So I'm physically engaged but standing still, which is only possible by mental activity. Ah, now something very special happens. The fusion between the body and the mind. There is a third body, it's an energy body, that is called the spiritual body. The spiritual body is rather special. Every human being has the potential to manifest a spiritual body. But it only occurs under special circumstances. The spiritual body in ancient paintings is shown as a ring of light around. When you see a painting of a holy person, a saint, male or female, that is basically a symbolical reflection of a person who has created this special condition that led to the opening up of the spiritual body. Now, when we talk about spiritual bodies, you think about religion, right? That is a dogma. That is what this has become. A dogma. Spirituality, the established religions are therefore very dogmatic. In a practical sense, what does this mean? That is the whole point of yoga. It leads to the development of special characteristics in a human being that are otherwise non-existent. If there is no harmony between the physical and the mental body, the third body does not manifest. But when it manifests, it provides you with increasing consciousness. That is where awakening comes from. That is where enlightenment comes from. It's very practical. You develop a consciousness that is wider than it was before, or compared to other people. That is where wisdom comes from. That is where, you know, there are people that they have never been to school, illiterate. And yet, when you sit down with them on a park bench and talk with them, they seem to be very wise. And you think, how is it possible? They cannot read or write. And yet they are so wise. The opposite side is there are people with 3 degrees. Doesn't make sense. What is this all about? There is no wisdom there. This explains how that works. That person that has never gone to school, cannot read or write, has developed wisdom by the opening up of the spiritual body. That person with 3 degrees has been mentally so busy, there is no harmony between the two. So theoretical knowledge is very big, but not capable of connecting the dots and making logic out of it, deep insight out of it. See how it works? So yoga works with everybody. And if you have 3 degrees, you will open up an enormous source of insight and wisdom based on those 3 degrees that could not manifest themselves before you establish this condition. Do you believe this? Do you believe me? Isn't it just incredible? Isn't it just incredibly marvelous what yoga promises? You know, last time, 3 weeks ago, we had a workshop, and not 1, but 3 people, they came to me, they looked at me, and they smiled, and they said, man, I've been practicing yoga for so long, and this is exactly what I've been looking for all those years. Finally, things started making sense. And it's so simple that you don't believe it until you do it yourself. You know how I came into contact with yoga? I was a teenager, an unruly teenager. I'm not going to tell you all the details. But very rebellious. And I wasn't going anywhere. But we were playing basketball. And we had a coach, a big guy, looked like a polar bear. He was a professional judo sonsu? Yeah, judoka, professional judoka. And he sacrificed his time to play basketball with us. And at some point he said, hey guys, sit down. So we sat down. And he said, bend one leg, and the other leg straight. Now grab your foot. And so what we did, of course, was this. So he said, hey, stop. Just grab your foot, don't move, and just breathe. And then he told us to lie down. And we grabbed our ankles and we made a bow. And then suddenly one guy said, hey, coach, what the hell is this? And the coach said, that's yoga, my friend. You know, the energy that spread out through my disturbed body felt so good. I went to the library after our workout, got a book about yoga. Internet didn't exist yet. And that evening I started practicing yoga from a book simply called Teach Yourself Yoga. A book out of the years 1950s, somewhere written in the 50s, as part of a series, Teach Yourself, the Reader's Digest series. Teach yourself gardening, teach yourself Korean cooking, teach yourself yoga. That book was so simple and so to the point. I started practicing yoga that evening. I slept like a baby and I woke up roaring like a lion. Felt so good. From that day, I've been sold. I've been addicted to yoga. And it totally turned around my life. It totally changed my life. So what I'm telling here is not theory from a book. It's not just fantasy or fairy tales. I've been through that whole transformation process, and still. But again, it only works if yoga is done properly. And again, exercise. If you like exercise, exercise. I've exercised a lot, but I came to Korea to exercise. After I discovered yoga, I connected with my heart, and my heart told me, I have an interest in martial arts. And by chance, I became interested in Hapkido. And we had a Korean teacher in Amsterdam. And for 3 years, I practiced with him, and then he left. And that is where I decided that I will go to Korea, to the land of the origin of Hapkido, and learn more. And I came, and I never left. But I tell you this, if I had not discovered yoga, that would never have happened. Because in that third body, where there is wisdom, insight, vision, it's also the location of courage. I do things that other people say, you are crazy. Dutch people point at their forehead. You are crazy. French people point here, but we do this when you're smart and we do this when you're crazy. So if you go to France as a Dutch person and you say, oh, you're so smart, they kill you. Oh, the chakras are gone. At the bottom, what was the emotion related to Muladhara chakra? Fear. That is the last chakra at the bottom. The highest chakra contains exactly the opposite characteristic. Courage. Courage is not something that you're born with. Fear is very natural. Because the energy in Muladhara chakra has a natural tendency to gravitate towards the bottom, and it explains why human beings are so powerful in surviving. That is why we have a problem of overpopulation now. Because fear is nothing else than an instinct to survive. But fear, in our modern day life, which is safe and secure, and you go to the super, you don't have to hunt and break your back in the field. But fear keeps us from manifesting the most wonderful things we can do in life. When I came to Korea and, did all the things that I did, and people admired me for that, I didn't understand exactly yet how it worked. And now I very practically understand how it works. I too have fear, because energy is fickle and it goes up and down all the time. But I have the tool to sit down and just make that energy go up. Big smile comes onto my face, and I know, in spite of the fear and the doubts and the worries, I know exactly what I need to do. And the magic is that if you overcome your fear, remarkable things start to happen. Like I came to Korea and it led me to even give up my nationality. Like I ended up adopting 2 very needy dogs. And now I'm YouTubing. Something I thought impossible. Something I thought I depended on other people to help me do that. Without overcoming my fear of adopting these dogs, I would still have to wait for 10 years before ending up doing what I should have done 10 years ago. See? Life is wonderful. That doesn't mean that it's easy. But when things start making sense, because you have insight and you understand it, and you do not allow yourself to be paralyzed by that fear in Muladhara chakra, Life is wonderful, every day, with all your suffering and misery included. Because even that starts making sense. Your suffering and your misery become your teachers. You understand that? I'm going too far now. But that is what yoga really is about. And when you understand that, you start actually controlling your life. That means that if you are suffering from something, some situation, it can be at work, can be at home, there are many issues we are suffering from, especially when it comes to family relationship. When you start becoming conscious of that, you can very gradually start to transform that, very gradually start to move away from that, in a non-violent way. That is control. Control of life. That is the science of yoga. Do you have questions? I think I'm trying to teach the whole course, including the advanced course, in just this short workshop. So maybe go back to the practical part with questions. No? So either I made you dizzy with everything that I threw at you, or I did a good job at explaining what it is all about. Do you get a little bit of picture now what yoga is about? It's amazing, isn't it? It's so simple that people don't see it. Not even those qualified, certified authorities in the field. But it's actually very simple, very practical, and very obtainable, very achievable. But you have to do something for it. You do have to make a start. You do have to, at least on a fairly regular basis, engage, make some time to practice, to look at your notes. But the transformation that it leads to, it's priceless. Beyond imagination. And because I know how it works, I will never ever teach modern yoga, even if I'm not capable of paying the rent anymore, or food for my dogs. Because I know if I do that, I'm fooling, cheating people. If it's only to make some money, to pay the rent, and just do some fake yoga to attract more people, that's impossible if you know how yoga really works. Only traditional yoga, because it really is the secret of the alchemist. Turns lead into gold. Let's have a short break. I'm talking too much, keeping you from connecting your body and your mind and your soul. Let's have a short break, and then we can practice a little bit of asana with a short meditation after, so you can actually feel how it works and if it works. Yeah? Thank you. 5 minutes?